You may have heard the saying, what you can't see can't hurt you. Well, guess what? Our next guest on the Real Estate Pessimist podcast is Garland Harris. And he breaks that myth to smithereens, because what you don't know, what you can't see in real estate development can kill your deal before you even start. Join Kristi and I as we interview Garland Harris, he's got his hands in all kinds of things and he knows what he's talking about. And we're talking about the invisible dimensions of real estate that make all the difference in every deal you'll do. You don't want to miss it.
Welcome to the Real Estate Pessimist podcast, where we talk about the good, the bad, and the truth about real estate investing. I'm Kristi Candle, one of your co-hosts. I'm a real estate developer, investor, and I teach locals how to become developers in their own community. And I'm joined with my co-host, Eric Stimbachen today.
Hey, good morning, Kristi. Yep. So just a heads up, Garland, we didn't share this with you, but I'm having an electrician work on my property right now, and they are at the main box. So if I just get raptured out of here in a split second, it's probably because my internet died, I lost electricity and stuff like that. But let's hope that doesn't happen, because before we got rolling here, we were talking with Garland, who joins us from Houston, Texas, and he's got a lot of interesting stuff going on here. And it's more than one thing. Okay, just to give you a clue, I asked him, he said, yeah, I got a project in Tennessee. I was like, yeah, where in Tennessee? He says, I don't know. I got to look it up. Okay. So he's got stuff going on. Garland, thank you for joining us. How is it in Texas right now? Is it only triple digits or are you down to double digits?
Actually, this has been a very mild summer. Let me check my phone. Let's see what the temperature is today. It is only 85 degrees outside right now. That is unheard of for us. Last summer we had a drought. And whenever we have a drought, it's when the sun is kind of like that level in Super Mario where the sun's trying to kill you. That's literally like Houston for like 2.5 months. Literally last year, I think from the middle of July till about maybe 2 weeks into September, we had record-breaking triple-digit heat each day. And we didn't get much rain. Yeah, it wreaks havoc on our soil. Like my house doors will stop closing. I gotta go outside and water the foundation. But it's been a rainy summer now, so we haven't really had, I think we've only had like less than 10 days of triple digit heat. It's been more in the 90s.
You've been a Texas guy for a while. And you mentioned football. So tell us about some football days. What'd you do?
I played football at Prairie View A&M University. I was a part of the 2009 SWAC championship team. So we were the first team to win a championship at the school in like 40 years. Like in the 90s, our team we have a record that's not really something you want to be proud of, but the longest losing streak in NCAA history. I think they lost 80 straight games. And, we were the team that kind of revived the school and brought back that championship culture. Now they got a brand new stadium. Mm-hmm. Actually, I was just up there last weekend. They invited all of the alumni players back for a closed practice and chance to meet the players and meet the coach and everything. And I was just like, man, you guys, y'all got it here. So I have like fancy jerseys. I had like framed jerseys on my wall from when I played. I got a Hall of Fame ring. They inducted our team in the Hall of Fame in 2016. I got my actual championship ring, but I don't wear it anymore because when I was younger, it kept falling off my finger and I actually messed it up a little bit. So now I got to go find some place to fix it for me. So now it's just sitting in the case. So I just wear the Hall of Fame ring like every once in a while. Yeah, playing football allowed me to first study architecture in college, but it also afforded me the opportunity to go to different states. We played a lot of games throughout the southeastern part of the United States. Been to Alabama and Mississippi, Arkansas. There's another little state down there somewhere too that I keep forgetting all the time.
Don't tell them now. They're gonna feel bad.
Look, I know there's Louisiana, Mississippi, Bama. There's somebody else down there that I'm missing besides Georgia. But yeah, we done been all throughout all those little states, and that's what I always tell kids. I'll be like, look, you want to go to college and you want to play sports because you get to travel for free because they lay us up in all these different places. And my sister, she played basketball at U of H and Kansas State. She got to go to Costa Rica. So like all kinds of different places to go play a tournament. I'm like, man, it was awesome. So football taught me a lot about running business. As I've told my friends and anybody who will listen, the sports world is nothing different from the business world. It's all about competitiveness, and it's all about just being better than the next man and being more efficient. So all we try to do is find ways to improve. I don't have to compare myself to nobody else, but we can look at, what we're doing. Like recently we looked at our website like a year ago, and, even though all my clients loved our website, I looked at it and said, I think we could do better. So we redesigned the entire website without anybody asking us. So every time we're just trying to figure out ways to be better, because that's how we were when we played football. Like, how can I get better? You know, how can I be quicker, in my back pedal or anything like that? How can I read the offense better? How can I pay attention to the quarterback's eyes and be able to jump that route so I can get an interception and go from there? And then my coach won't yell at me for missing the interception and get mad at me and cuss me out, something like that. It was a lot of fun stories back then too.
All right, so you went from playing football and studying architecture to what are you doing right now? What's your
So my day job is running an architecture firm. Well, I call it a residential architecture firm because we only do residential. Middle Housing Design Co. As you see the logo there, product placement. So it's really like the full-time thing that I do. But one of my teammates from college, we also have a development company where we build our own projects. So for me, I tell my clients all the time, look, whatever design decisions you want to make in your project, you could do it. Because if I disagree with you, I'll just keep your plan and I'll just keep a version of that plan, make it a stock plan and go build it myself. So if, one of the things that me and some of my clients talk about all the time, a lot of my clients are younger here in the Houston area. So they want stuff that's like super modern. But I have a lot of plans that have a lot of traditional styles that locally they don't do well, but when we put them out to market them nationally, we get a lot of hits on. Like one of our best-selling one-story duplex plans on our website is a plan we have never built in the Houston area. I can't get nobody to build it. They look at it and they're like, can I get something more modern? I'm like, man, but nationwide, like that's our top seller. Like that plan just sells like hotcakes. So for us, it's like, okay, well, I like playing with different architectural styles. Our first project, we built these 2 duplexes. We built them more. Everybody in the area at that time was building more, I call them boring traditional duplexes. They kind of look like what you see in a lot of the southern suburbs. Yeah. So I was like, well, I want to build something that looks more contemporary. So we built these contemporary duplexes. They sold very quickly. The next project, I said, I love brownstones. I want to build a New York brownstone. So we built 4 townhouses that are, basically modeled after New York brownstones. This next project, was like, we want to build a 4-plex. And the city changed their rules to allow us to build it. I said, okay, I want this 4-plex to look more transitional. So that's kind of the design that we played with. The next one that we're doing, I'll probably go for something that's more like ultra modern on that one. But the ability to be able to come in and say, all right, well, cool. Even if none of my clients want to build a certain style, I'm going to build it, because then awesome. I can go out and find a lot. I can go do exactly everything that they're doing because it's not, okay, I don't want to say it's not hard. How do we word this, Lord? It's not rocket science. There we go. That's what my coach used to tell us all the time. When we would ask too many questions, he'd be like, this ish ain't rocket science. So me and my teammate often say that to each other. But development isn't rocket science, but it isn't easy. But once we were able, and we're still figuring stuff out. I mean, we don't know everything, we're still learning stuff as we go on. I learned just a couple of weeks ago, I learned what a force main was. So we have a project. One of our clients is buying this 2-acre tract. It's a funny story. This client is actually one of our coaching clients from our brownstone project 2 years ago. So he's buying a 2-acre site, really walking distance away from where we just bought a 1.25 acre site. He's like right next, he's like across the street from us. So he had called me and he was like, yeah, I got this site under contract. I was like, okay, where is it? We pull it up in the county's records. I'm like, hey, you're across the street from us. He was like, what? I was like, we got this one on the corner. He's like, for real? I was like, yeah. So when we looked at his survey, they mentioned that there was a 12-inch force main. I was like, what the hell is a force main? So I called my partner because my partner runs a civil construction company. And he's like, yeah, a force main is a line that comes from a pumping station and it's a pressurized sewer line. I was like, really? So then I started YouTube and stuff. I learned a ton of stuff about wet wells, wastewater treatment plants, pumping stations, force mains. I learned, and then we went through the city sewer network and we're tracking all this stuff. And I was like, man, I didn't know half this stuff was here. It was like engineering in plain sight. It was like, there's a wet well here, there's a wet well there. So it's just little things like that.
Hey, can we talk business for a second? If you've been flipping houses or running short-term rentals, you already know how to hustle. You know how to spot opportunity, add value, and make a property work harder. But if we're being honest, flipping gets exhausting, and short-term rentals are definitely not passive. So what's next? For a lot of people I work with, the answer is real estate development. I'm talking about turning a vacant lot into a quadplex, or bringing a rundown building back to life as a mixed-use space. I'm Kristi Candle, and I've been a real estate developer my entire career, and now I host the Local Real Estate Developer podcast to help locals like you do the same. We pull back the curtain and show you what it takes to go from flipper or host to local developer. If you're ready to build something bigger, this podcast is for you. Check out the Local Real Estate Developer podcast on all platforms.
But so we do design, we do development. We're also thinking about adding fee development to our to our services, because we've had people ask, but in the past we're like, I don't want to bill for nobody else, because what if I don't agree with their decisions, And then I'm like, ugh. But we had a lot of people ask, so we're like, okay, well, we got the whole team. We might as well go on and open it up for them. So
a huge part of my career was fee development early on. Don't hesitate to reach out. There's definitely ways that you can structure it to not make it as cumbersome as it could be, and just clear. We've talked about this on prior partnership episodes and things, but as long as the expectations are clear and it's here's what's being delivered, here's how it's going, they're going to make the business decisions, but you're guiding the ship. Yeah. So don't hesitate to reach out if you guys want anything on that. It's honestly not a bad additional revenue stream.
Yeah, I think so. Cause we have the entire network, the team to get, and
you've got the leads coming in the different, you really could do that.
We have land that comes in. We have the marketing team to sell it on the back end and everything. So it's like, well, shoot, why not? Why not just, do feed it? Because a lot of clients we have, my biggest issue with our design clients sometimes is they want to go outside the network. They want to price shop. And I always tell them, just because something is cheaper doesn't mean it's better. Or our other saying is, every time you try to find something cheaper, you end up paying more. And I got a personal story for that. Last year, my sewer line in the back of my house, I guess it collapsed at one point, right? So I had a company come out and they were like, okay, we're going to replace the whole sewer line. It's going to be $10,000. Or we could do a spot repair for $5,000. Looking at the age of your line and the age of your home, you probably need to replace the entire line. Well, I heard $10,000 and I was like, oh no, that's too much. I had the $10,000, so I should have just gave it to him. You know what I'm saying? But still, I was like, oh, no. So my partner had another plumber. He came out. He was like, I'll do the spot repair for $3,000. I said, all right, cool. So I gave him the $3,000. He did the spot repair. 3 months later, it backed up again. They came out, dug under the house, found a broken pipe under the house. So then they had to take all that out, reroute the line. So I paid them like $4,500 to do that. Then it backed up again. And they came back out, found another break in the line. So then they replaced the rest of it. I think that was like another like $4,000 or $5,000 there. So when I calculated it at the end of the year, I said, dang, I should just pay the $10,000 up front, because I ended up paying him $12,000 and he had to come back out 3 times to replace my dang sewer line. Every time you try to go cheaper, you end up spending more money. So, yeah.
So before we got rolling on the podcast, we were talking about, and we'll get into some of your investments and how you work with investors and what you do there. But we were talking about title. Not title. I'm sorry. That was on my mind from something totally different. We're going to get to title. We're going to get to deed restricted and so on like that. We were talking about surveys, because often it seems like, well, I'm buying a piece of land or a property, and it's got a house or a barn or maybe nothing. And so why would I pay $1,000, $1,500? Surveys are getting more expensive for a survey, because it is what it is, right? I'll just buy the land, and it's not like I'm going to just build my property right up to the property's edge. So it seems like saving money on a survey is an easy way to save. Now, if you can't see him, if you're listening, he is shaking his head vigorously right now, saying it's not a good place to save $1,000, $1,500. He's even sweating at us. Okay, Garland, tell us.
But all it does, Eric, is it shows me the property lines, and I can see there's
No,
a structure there.
way,
There's
Right.
grass.
There's
There,
way
probably
more,
a one
the
by
house
two
next to me, I
hammered into
believe.
the ground.
way more than that.
Okay,
I
tell
talk,
us.
I actually teach a course on this, you know.
Okay,
So
teach us.
I have a course called How to Read House Plans. I'm actually going to put it back on my site in the next month or so,
That's
because
good.
I taught a live version of it I taught it back in 2023, and then I taught a new version of it. Well, it was really the same information, but a more updated version earlier this year, and then I've been lagging on putting it back up on my site. I created the How to Read House Plans course because, number one, I got tired of my clients missing stuff during construction. Like, I walk on site and I'm like, this wrong, this wrong, this wrong. How do you know? What's right here in the plans? Oh, well, I don't know how to read those. What you doing? So I expanded the class and added, like, first it was just architectural plans, but then I added engineering plans, and then I added surveys and plats, because I realized, like, people don't understand that, number one, there are like tons of different surveys you can get. So you can get a boundary survey, which is what most title companies need to close. Then you have existing condition surveys, which show a lot more information that is relevant to development. You have topographical surveys, which are typically needed anytime you're doing any kind of drainage work. You have elevation certificates, which is technically a type of survey. You have tree surveys. So if you're in a city that has rigorous tree laws or tree requirements, you need tree surveys. There's all kinds of different surveys, and you need to know, like, which ones.
Full-blown Alta
Never,
survey if you wanted to certain
yeah,
standards. Yeah.
never, ever buy a property without a survey in any way, shape, or form. We have paid dearly for that. My partner bought when we were first getting started back in like 2018, 2019, my partner bought a property at auction, and we didn't get a survey for it because, it's at auction. So we went through, did the renovation and everything, got ready to sell it, and they asked for a survey. We got a survey, found out our our fence was encroaching on our neighbor's property about like 3 or 4 feet. And if we moved the fence, then we wouldn't have 3 feet off the face of our electrical meter. So then the city would take our meter away. So we had to basically end up buying the property from the neighbor next door so that we keep our fence where it is. And if we'd have had a survey from the jump, we could have noticed that, and we could have, because it ended up delaying the closing and stuff like that, but we could have taken care of that up front. So that's on the existing house. On vacant land, we had this property one time. It was in a prime part of the city. To this day, that lot is still vacant. Prime part of the city. We could build some townhouses on them, sell them for like $600,000. So we put it under contract, and we were like, yeah. Got the survey. We find an abandoned pipeline easement running through the property. So we're like, oh, terminate the contract. The buyer or the seller's agent was so desperate to sell the property because nobody would touch it, that they were like, oh, we could get the pipeline easement removed. I was like, hold on, man. We don't know what they were transferring in that pipeline. We don't know what environmental concerns we got to do. We're not doing that, okay? So we just going to terminate the contract. We're going to leave it alone. But surveys are they're extremely important and informative documents that we need. And it's not just, you don't just get one survey. You're going to get surveys throughout the project. You're going to, like I said, you might get a boundary survey to close, but then we'll go to replat and we'll need an existing condition survey, because we need to know, like, what are the right-of-way widths, how wide are the actual roads. If you have like we have a lot of open ditches, so we need to know like how wide those ditches are to see if we got room to put sidewalks to meet the city of Houston's extremely stupid. Yes, I said that, Houston, extremely stupid sidewalk ordinance that does not make any sense at all, because we have not done any significant work in the right of way to make sure we got room to build sidewalks. That's a whole nother argument for a whole nother time. But even doing construction, I'll tell you, I made a mistake on our last project. I didn't pay attention to the form survey when it came in. I didn't realize that they shortened one of my houses by 6 inches. So
And
we
tell
had
them what forms are, so that way they can understand, okay, what does that mean?
the forms for like your foundation. So we build a lot of slab on grade, but in flood zones, we still have to do elevated houses. And some of them are super tall because the city of Houston put in after Harvey flooded us, they changed their requirements and required everybody to be elevated above the 500-year floodplain. So now you can drive through some of our neighborhoods. You got houses that are like 7-8 feet off the ground. It's like, Why is this house so high?
Yeah, we're up to like 14 feet here
Yeah,
in
it's
Southwest
wild,
Florida,
isn't it?
and it's hurricanes that do that. But yeah, so
Yeah,
you've got the forms, and basically you're saying those are you really want to shoot your four corners of the slab to go wherever
yes,
the foundation is. Like, we are agreeing that this is where it should be
yes,
based on the plan, based on setbacks, based on everything. And at that point, those
yes,
are just wood forms. You're not, if it's off, you can move those. Once you
yes.
pour concrete, that's a
You can't move them
really
no more.
hard to
Yeah.
move.
And so
Yeah, and
what
there's
happened was I didn't look at it, and like they sent it to me, and I just, oh, thank you, received. I didn't look at them. Dumb. Okay. So then I go out to the site after they done poured the slabs, and I look at one of the houses. I'm like, hey, I'm missing a brick ledge. We have one house that had brick wrapping around because it was near the street. I was like, hey, I'm missing brick ledge over here. And so our GC is going back looking over in there, and we're looking over everything, and I'm like, well, how the hell are we missing a brick ledge? We go back, I look, and I comparing dimensions. I'm like, bruh, I'm on the phone with my partner. I'm like, bro, the freaking form was short 6 inches. He's like, for real? I was like, yeah. He's like, well, we sent you the form survey. You didn't review it? I didn't. I'm an idiot. So that's when I learned. When I get form surveys on my projects, review it, pull up the site plans, scrutinize it, look at the building plans, make sure that everything matches, and then I can go to my contractor and say, okay, we're good to go.
Yep, and
And
there's
that
another
ruined
part.
it for you, right? You left real estate altogether after that, right? You
No,
said, "Oh, nope, lost it. Made a mistake, screwed up."
no. We
No,
made
so
changes.
I want to put this in here. Is if you're a real estate investor or you want to be a real estate investor, ask questions.
Yes.
Okay, if you don't know, ask. Someone will tell you. My first experience with something having to do with a foundation survey was because our builder basically blew everything off. They got a survey to begin with, and they had a surveyor come out and they did, and you can help me out here, Garland. There's a survey, I guess it's the form, says that this is where the foundation is supposed to be. And then in that municipality, they did another survey to check did they put the foundation where it was supposed to. Was it?
Form survey. Yeah, that's your form survey. The first survey was a stake survey.
And so I asked the city, I asked the inspector, I said, so what is this? And they said, well, that's what this inspection was. Because we had problems because the contractor did not follow the plans at all. I got out there like, what is this? That they built a completely different thing going on, but we have a different podcast about that. But the idea is that there are parts, there are steps that these surveys can go through to find out, are you on track? What's going on in this? And ask people. I asked the survey company. I said, so what exactly is going on here? And why did I not receive it as the owner? And I paid for this. And that's another little thing that happened. I had paid the builder, but the builder had never paid the survey people.
Mhm.
They never paid them. And that's the story over and over with this. Well, this is the builder that defrauded us, took the money and ran, basically. But what was cool is that I was able to talk to the surveyors, and we worked out a deal where I got everything that I had paid for it twice, but they explained a lot of things to me about this and walked me through things. So if you're at any stage of construction, pre-development, development, building, whatever, you can ask people questions. Say, what does this mean? Why is this important? Now, there's some other important things. I don't want to leave the survey thing just yet, that a survey can tell you that you're looking at that you can't, because before we started again, somebody said to Garland, why don't you just come out and look at the land? You can stand here and you can see it all. And he said to us, no, you can't. What can you not see that you should be able to see when you get an appropriate survey? What do you see on paper or on screen that you can't see by walking the lot? Boots on the ground, that's what matters. And you're telling us, no, there's some things that survey reveals that you need to know. What are some of those things?
Yeah, so the main thing is building lines, easements, encroachments. You go out there and you see a fence. The survey comes out and they're like, your fence is 5 feet onto your neighbor's property. That's not your property. So like we had a property that we were going to buy and build like a duplex courtyard project on it. And we got the survey back. And at first I didn't notice it. But then when I looked at the survey again, when I was talking with one of my partners about it, and I looked at it, I was like, hey, wait a minute. The neighbor's carport is encroaching on the left side of the property. It was like, oh, we'll just tear it down. I'm like, no, we not. That's a carport that belongs to the neighbor. They're going to have us on the news talk about this greedy developer is tearing down my carport. Terminate that contract, bro. We ain't messing with that. So there's things like that we can't see in the field. We can't see underground utilities or or easements for those underground utilities. Now, there are things that are beneficial about site visits. We can at least locate things like power lines if they're above ground. We can see street conditions. We can see curb cuts.
Mm-hmm.
We can see the state that the sidewalk is in. Because if we have an actual sidewalk that the city has rebuilt, the city of Houston won't require us to rip it out and rebuild it. But a lot of times, if I'm keeping it 100 with you guys, a lot of times we could just use Google satellite views and street view to see a lot of this stuff. So there's really no excuse for us to go out to the lot. We bought lots that I have not seen until we actually started building on them.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, the main thing is the survey is going to give us way more information than what we could ever get from just a site visit. And that's how important surveys are. It's my number one rule. We never buy a property without a survey. We don't even start a project for a client on the design side without a survey. Because I've had clients come in and be like, oh, well, can't you just use HCAD data, which is the county's appraisal data? I'm like, yeah, well, the county gives us the boundaries of the lot, but they don't give us easements. They don't give us building lines. They don't tell me if there's deed restrictions. They don't tell me anything, okay? They just show me just the boundaries of the lot. I need to know all this information so that I can make sure that we can fit what we're trying to fit on the lot.
All right, so
and I
that's
think it's really important.
important.
I was going to say on this, where people are like, wait, we're real estate investors. We're talking about that on this pod. Why, or how does this apply? Well, I think it's really key right now in this market condition and where we're at. A lot of people who were flipping houses or investing in are realizing the numbers aren't there in their communities. And now they're going to new construction. And I've got a handful of people that I'm mentoring and they're doing their first new construction and they are running into all of this. So even if you're not doing new construction yet, these are key things to know. Like, I didn't even know to think about that. And key lessons learned to where you can actually build what you want to build on your lot, the right size. We had a guy, Chase, who was on, and he ended up needing to shrink. He was going to put a manufactured home in, and he ended up doing a stick frame home as a result because he had to basically shrink the width of his house, but it was from doing surveys and understanding all of this. So this is super important.
And
it's so important.
Just real quick, the bigger the lot, the more important it is to have a survey. So I had a client recently bring us a lot that she said it was, I think first she told me it was 2 acres. And then when she gave me the survey and we calculated, I was like, this isn't 2 acres, this is 1.6. And she was like, oh, okay, well, the seller told me 2. I was like, yeah, the seller's wrong. We're looking at the survey.
Okay, so stop right there. Are you telling me that the seller or the seller's agent can tell you one thing and reality might be different?
Okay, so let me start with this. I'm going to turn and I'm going to come back. Okay, all right, I'm back for y'all. Let me say this, okay? And I'm not disrespecting realtors in any way, shape, or form. I used to be a realtor. It was one of my ways.
Lay it on us.
Learned a lot. I always tell clients, realtors are not developers unless they actually have projects that they are actually building that they can show you. I know I have a couple of clients who are realtors and are developers. They are better suited to help clients in development than just a regular run-of-the-mill realtor. It's the same thing on the buying investment property side. I always tell people, if your realtor can't take you to properties that they own, don't take investment advice from them because they don't know. And it's not to say that they can't help you facilitate the sale, or they can go and help you fill out the contracts and everything and help you find, a lender, maybe. If you want to actually don't take advice from them like on, well, this property can rent for this. We've seen some wild things in Houston where realtors will be like, this property can rent for $2,500 a month and the rental rates in the area are $1,900. And I'm like, where are you getting 25 from? And I'm pulling the same comps you're pulling. The median rent in this area is like $2,000 a month. Where are you getting 25 from? Where are you getting 2,800 from?
Right. So who's left holding the bag there? Can you just go back to the realtor and say, well, I guess you owe me $500 a month every month because you were wrong? Does that happen?
No. And even if it does,
that doesn't happen, by the way.
No.
I don't know if there's any like legal recourse that you can do.
There is not.
There
is not.
Yeah. So I'm a big proponent of doing your own due diligence,
Yes.
We have built our due diligence process out to the point where we don't even trust title companies. We have an independent title examiner to do our own research to find all deed restrictions and everything. We pull our own comps. We work with our own lenders. We do everything based off of the team that we have built. Because I'm like, I'll see realtors, Houston doesn't have any zoning. it seems like every week I'll see a listing for land that says this land is zoned for such and such. I'm like, there's no zoning in Houston. There's not, we don't have any zoning. You can't say that it's zoned for that because there is no zoning. We can literally do what we want as long as it isn't, but we can literally do what we want.
So you just said the word deed restricted. It seems like, Garland, if I bought the land, it's my land. I could do whatever I want to with it. True or false?
No, that is false. And
what?
I'm sweating a little bit, so I'm trying to turn my air down.
All right.
Real talk right now.
What is, and this is really important. It's a topic we have not talked at length about on the podcast. And this is the invisible things that make or break an investment. They're not sexy. You can't take a picture of entitlements and post it on Instagram, right? You can't take a picture of yourself with the CC&Rs. You can't, right? This doesn't seem to make sense, but it can totally make or break a deal, like completely. Talk to us about what deed restrictions are, because most people just think, well, I buy the land, I ought to be able to do whatever I want on it. Take us there. I am co-host of this podcast because education is my calling. That's also why I developed a course on short-term rentals. It's called STR in an Hour, and it's perfect for busy professionals. It's a lot of content packed into 1 hour. No fluff, no upsell. It's an overview of STRs from A to Z. Everything from how to choose a property to how to estimate income and expenses. It's literally the best and most content I could pack into 59 minutes. With over 4,000 nightly stays in my own STRs, I've learned important lessons, and I want to share them with you. Link with more information in the show notes.
So, depending on your state, every state, their rules are different, but for the most part, most of them, deed restrictions can more than likely override city rules. Quick story, in 2021, it was 21. In 2021, we bought these 3 lots in an area of Houston called South Park. I don't live too far from the area. It's close to the Texas Medical Center, which, if you don't know anything about Houston, the Texas Medical Center is the largest medical center in the world, and it's expanding. So it's already a miniature downtown. It really does look like a miniature downtown, and they're expanding it. So you just imagine the largest medical center getting larger and the impact that that's having on the surrounding neighborhoods around. Well, we bought these lots and we were like, man, we're going to build like 8 duplexes, right? We're going to build 6 on 2 different lots. And then 3 on one lot, 2 on another lot, and 2 on another lot. So we go to our replat team and they're like, you can't build duplexes here. It's deed restricted. And I was like, that don't mean nothing. The city says we can do it. They're like, no, you don't understand. If it's deed restricted and the deed restrictions say you can't do it, you can't do it. I'm like, what do you mean? So then I started reading through the restrictions. I'm like, this is the most dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. First of all, these restrictions were put in the face. Now, Houston has 3 loops that go around the city. Okay, that's how we end up being so mega colossal in size. That's why Houston is an hour away from Houston. That's the joke that everyone asks. Yeah. My mom and dad, they live an hour away from me and they're still in Houston, Anyways, when these deed restrictions were put in, that neighborhood was a suburban neighborhood because there were no freeways. There wasn't the 610 loop that it now sits outside of. There wasn't the Beltway 8 loop that it sits inside of. And there wasn't the last loop that they're building right now, the Grand Parkway loop. And so now what that does is with these loops, it's now taking areas that were suburban and they're becoming urban. But then you have these stupid deed restrictions that have automatic renewals, which makes no sense to me because they don't take into account how an area will change. So today, I might be buying a lot. Let me think of an area that is really transformed. Okay, so let's take Pearland. That's an area south of me. Pearland is actually one of the fastest growing cities in the state of Texas, right? Probably 15, 20 years ago, if you bought a piece of land in Pearland, you were probably buying an acre lot or something. You probably didn't have many neighbors. Now you're probably buying in a master plan community because they're building them all around that area, right? So now that area has went from being a suburb to quickly becoming an area that will densify over the next 10 to 20 years because the loop that the final loop that they're building is going to come around south of that area, and all the little towns south of that are now going to start getting developed and built out, and they're going to become the new suburbs, while everything inside is going to become the new urban areas. Well, if you got deed restrictions in that area, and the deed restrictions were put in the freaking 20s, and they say, well, all the lots in this area have to be 1 acre. Well, I don't need an acre anymore, because when you put these in, there were cows roaming around. Now it's cars speeding at 80 miles an hour. I need to densify this little area. But it's very important. That's why we have an independent title examiner to go and review them ourselves. We've had plats killed. As recent as last year, we've had plats that got killed after the city found hidden deed restrictions that the title company didn't give us.
So, question on the deed restrictions, because we all know, okay, if we're using common sense, which government doesn't always use, that they're now outdated. What does it take to remove a deed restriction? Is this going back and finding the original people and things and getting everyone to do a quick claim? Yeah, that's what I was going to say. They're probably dead.
Most of them are dead.
Yeah.
In some of the areas we built it in, I was like, these people been dead, okay?
Or quiet title action, or
in our state, I think, or in our city, they say that we have to have, I think, 65 to 75% of the landowners in the area to agree to amend the restrictions or remove them. Well,
so then you got to figure out how many are impacted by the same deed. And then, I had to do that on a project in California once. Yeah, but if it's 60, 80, 100 people, and now you got to go hunt down all those signatures.
That finding out who it is, that part's easy, because the county actually breaks out the subdivisions and their maps. So we can go and look in the county and we say, okay, all of these properties fall under these restrictions. What's hard is, if I'm in an area that has mainly vacant land, most of those owners may not even be in the state. So now I got to try to track these people down. And I'm like, is it really worth it? Like, there's an area called Brookhaven that's heavily restricted. It's sitting right in the middle of one of our extremely fast growing neighborhoods, Sunnyside. Nobody has been able to touch anything over there except building large houses on large. They have like lots that range from like 11 to 20,000 square feet. We could come in and build multiple duplexes or townhouses on them, and nobody's built anything over there because it's heavily restricted. And it's like a little pocket that's sitting in another neighborhood, because all these neighborhoods were developed at different times. And you could literally go a street over and you could do whatever you want over there because there's no restrictions. But then you go to this street and it's like, nope, this entire area is deed restricted. So in my opinion, deed restrictions are the dumbest thing that has ever been. Well, no, let me put this back. They're not the dumbest thing. The dumbest thing is automatic renewals. Deed restrictions should expire after 40 years. And unless there's
pick a time frame, or put a mechanism in to say, okay, here's a realistic, attainable mechanism to get it amended or removed or something.
Yeah. Well, I'd be better just with the automatic expiration. And if the neighbors come together and want to extend it, that's different. But because they don't take into account how we don't know what our cities are going to look like 40 years from now. You know, we look how much technology has advanced in just the last 10, 15 years. You know, we have cars that basically can drive themselves. You know, I got one of them. It's pretty cool. we didn't have that 10 years ago. 15 years ago, we didn't have the ability to have little handheld devices that were basically computers in our hands.
Right.
20 years ago, an application was a job, not something on your phone.
Good point.
Oh, something you filled out for a job. I'm sorry, not a job. But still, with the advancements in technology, we don't know what our neighborhoods will look like in the future. It's like the car debate. It's like the debate with removing parking restrictions. You have older crowds who are like, why are you removing parking restrictions? Everybody needs cars. And I'm like, these young kids can order a phone from the palm of their hand. In the 90s, they told me, don't get in the car with strangers. Now they tell me, hey, order a stranger to come pick you up.
Yeah, I've got a friend of mine, and his mom is benefiting by, she literally calls a car, but it's not driven by a stranger, it's driven by a robot. And a robot-driven car picks her up and takes her places. So things are changing, but sometimes deed restrictions don't. So what happened? You were going to build all these duplexes.
Lots. Luckily, it was during that time when the market was stupid hot. Well, let me say, when the market was on a level that we will never, ever see again. And we were able to sell all 3 lots for a profit. And we took that money and bought lots in areas that weren't restricted and built other projects.
Okay, so I want to underline this for our listeners, is that if you heard, as Garland has been talking about this, there have been a number of times, like his job is developing, right? It's building and getting that stuff done. But he has chosen to walk away from a number of properties that don't fit what he needs to do. Sometimes we get this like, well, I bought it, I'm going to make it work, right? I will find a way to make it work. I see this in the short-term rental community. People say, well, I bought a place, I didn't read the covenants, convictions, the CC&Rs.
CCRs, yeah.
Yeah, and it says that short-term rentals are not allowed. What do y'all think? Like, this is on some forum. I'm like, I think you bought the wrong place, is what happened. Is like you're in trouble is what I think, because sometimes we'll look at a thing like this and think, I ought to be able to just, by force of will, I'll make it be what I want it to be. You don't hear Garland shaking his head, but he's shaking his head. I had to pass up on a property once too. It was in a mountain town, and they were apparently not doing even the most rudimentary style surveys. I mean, or not even talking like the Abraham Lincoln style, right? We're talking nothing. And so this property, well, actually, there was several of them that I looked at. You talk about encroachments. They had part of their building on the lot that I was supposed to buy. Well, guess what? I can't make them tear that down. And that's going to impact my setbacks if I want to tear down the buildings that are on my lot if I buy it. Like, this is just how it happens. I looked at another place and they had a survey, and I looked at it with an aerial overlay, and I thought, this doesn't make any sense. Like, the property I would be buying has a corner of this building on someone else's lot. What? And they said, yeah, that's just how it is. I'm like, no, that's just how it is. Not for me. No way, because that is just nothing but trouble down the line. Now, that's what I chose. Other people could do whatever you want to do. But I think a theme that's been going on here is that due diligence with the invisible part of development, that is the foundation. The foundation for your development is before your foundation. You have to have the entitlements. You have to have the ability to what I want to do versus what I can do. And that could be anything from what the city has, to what the state has, to what the county has, to what the deed has, to what your HOA has, to what the city expects you to do. Do not underestimate that. I was on a search team. A group of people here wanted to relocate a church. And they said, well, what about this property? This will be super. This would be great. And fortunately, we had a guy on our team, give a shout out to Eddie, who said, because he'd been in development and he had been on the county commission. And he'd said, here's what's going to happen. They're going to make you improve the sidewalks. It's a corner lot. They're going to make you do all the corner sidewalks, and they're going to make you do the street lights, and they're going to make you change your egress. And currently you get onto the property here. They're going to make you change that to a different place, and they're going to make you pay for all of those things. And everybody standing there was like, what? And he said, oh, by the way, what used to be here? Like, I think it was a repair shop. He said, you ever heard of USTs? Yep. And we're like, you underground storage tanks and EPA things with all the grease and oil that was there. Now, this idea that you walk the lot, which is good. Yes, there's advantages to that. You can see things, but these invisible things have a massive impact on your ability to use that property. And some of these things, they're not negotiable. I got into this and I dug in even further. And I called the municipality and I said, do you guys have a plat for this, or what's going on? I'm like, what is this? There's a line here and it says 30. Like, is that 30 inches? 30 inches of what? It's an easement? They said, oh no, that's a water main that goes right through the middle of the property. I was like, oh, so there is no basement going to ever happen here. Like, nope. Wow. Okay then. So this is why we do this podcast, and this is why we're sharing it with you, is that these invisible things have everything to do with your ability to do the cool, sexy build. Like, oh, hey, here's a picture of me with a new building in the background. Yeah. If you don't get the invisible part right, that other part is never going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, even when you talk about that, though, I think one of the funniest things I see online often is people, you could just file a variance. And I'll be like, that is not how variances work. And be like we tell our clients all the time, listen, a variance, you got about a 50-50 chance on a variance. Okay. You got to go state your case. If you don't win, they don't give you your money back. They're not going to say, oh, you didn't win, here's your money back. No, they keep all of that. So unless you got something that you can like is a serious like hardship that you can prove, like, hey, I can't do nothing with this unless you guys give me this exception. You don't just go and say, oh, well, I want to push my building up here, so I'm just going to file a variance. It's like, that's not how that works. It's like,
nope.
There's stuff that you have to do. So, yeah. And even when you talked about that water main, that's another thing. If you're buying, like in my email newsletter this week, I actually sent out tips for buying acreage land, because I've had some clients come with large acreage, and when we're buying like a small infill lot, right? We'll do a 10-day option. We can do all our due diligence for that within 10 days. We can get a survey, we can look at deed restrictions, we can check all of the city's infrastructure maps and figure out, if we got water, sewer, all other stuff, right? But when we buy acreage, no, we extend that due diligence period to at least a minimum of 90 days, because the first thing we do is we go to the city and we basically go get what the city of Houston calls a WCR letter. But every city has it. It's basically a letter that shows your capacity that you have for that project, or that they have for that project in terms of water and sewer. So it's very important. Like, we have a plot of land where we want to put 40 units on it, right? Next door to us is a 400 unit subdivision. Across the street from us is a 52-door duplex project that they just finished. And behind us is a 92 unit townhouse development that's already been platted. So I'm looking at everything and I'm just like, hey, bro, we need to go to the city and make sure they got capacity, because they got all these projects around here. There's a lot of projects, man. They might run out of water and sewer capacity. Luckily, we got word 2 days ago that the city has enough capacity for our project. And so we went ahead and got our WCR, even though we haven't even closed on a lot. We haven't even done any plans or anything for it. We haven't even started a plat, so that we could have that capacity reserved just in case somebody else comes online and has another bigger project in the area. We know that the city has capacity reserved for us for the next 6 months, and we'll go in there and extend it if our project isn't ready by then. But it's important to look all of that stuff up, because especially in these smaller cities, they may not have the capacity for all of the new development that is coming. And they need time to go and spend a ton of money building wastewater treatment plants and water plants and things like that. Like, those things are not cheap at all.
A lot of times we take that for granted. We go, wait, we can always have water. We can always have sewer. We can always
just buy
have power. And you're right. It's there. We've got it. And that's not the case.
Can I just put a well in? No. So
well, yeah. And also, like, there's different rules and ordinances that say if you're within X amount of feet, you must tap into it, because ultimately we do all need to be on the same system. But even the utilities, they have to plan and they have to be fiscally responsible too. So if they see, oh, okay, these people submitted these applications, we can take on X amount more capacity. So they plan that into their budget and it's there, and they upgrade their system. But yeah, we get a hot development market and everyone's coming in, and that's a really key thing. I remember stepping in on a project in California where we quite literally were under construction and they had not guaranteed the water rights. And it took a whole investigation of figuring out who to buy the rights from to even get to the water. And $750,000 later, we were able to eventually procure the water. Yeah, that could have left a massive multi-7-figure hole if we weren't able to get it.
Yeah, it's real. We had a municipality here in Colorado push pause on all development. I think they put a stop work order on the things that were under. That part is a little fuzzy, but what they did is they denied all building permits. Everything was just shut down. And you can't just say, well, I bought it, and so you owe it to me. You can't make that argument. Like, if you bought the thing and you didn't have that, like Garland was just saying, basically assured that you are going to have this, you might not have that. And you might have basically dry ranch land at that point, and that's it. And that's all it's going to be. In Colorado here, water is a really, really real deal here. And you've got, I mean, as little as I knew, I did some research on a piece of land. It's about 5 acres, not more than a mile from me, undeveloped. I'm like, man, this would be awesome. And it came with a share of water rights. I was like, oh, this is awesome. Like, we'll be able to divide this all up. Was it subdividable? Yes. The city said, oh, this would be great. And I said, well, okay, so the water, yeah, but the water, you can't divide the water. Wait, what? So I can cut this up into lots, but only one lot gets water? Yeah, that's how that is. Well, guess what? That is why right now there is still just one little lean-to and a horse wandering around on that thing all by itself. That's why it's still that way. It's because of these invisible things that have everything to do with your ability to move forward as an investor.
Yeah, infrastructure, Garland, definitely.
Yeah,
it's something.
You have taken us into places that are just so cool and so little talked about.
Yeah. And I've seen I'll say the bigger cities are a lot more organized than the smaller cities. The bigger cities, they have, departments that's all they're doing. They're going and looking at this and they're looking at the numbers. And so it's very rare that the bigger cities will come to a point where they say, where they're putting in moratoriums. So like in 2023, we saw that happening a lot in Texas. We saw, and Georgia too. We saw a lot of the smaller cities, the suburbs around those larger cities, putting in moratoriums because they had so much development come in. And they were like, hey, we're not giving out no more water letters or anything for the next 2 years until we get another plant online or yada, yada, yada. But the bigger cities, they're usually more on top of that. So the biggest thing we have in the city of Houston is this water or sewer line might not be there, even though they say it's there. So then you might have to do an extension. But they're not saying, oh, we don't have any water available for you. They're just saying, oh, we don't have access to the water. You got to extend it to your site. And we'd be like, well, how much is that? And you look at this 6-figure bill. And you're like, I ain't doing that. Like, do I get are y'all going to pay me for this? And be like, no, and in some instances, they'll give you a reimbursement, but it's really only beneficial like if you're doing like larger projects. Like if I'm building one house, it's no benefit for me to do a freaking extension. So normally what we'll do is we had a project recently where that happened. We went to the neighbor because they had access to the sewer line, but it was on the opposite side of us. So we just went to the neighbor, offered them $1,000, got an easement filed, and we're running the sewer line through the back of their property so that we can connect to it instead of running it through the right of way, which would have cost way more.
So many ways to do this. And good questions. I looked at a piece of land and they said, well, electricity is nearby. Okay, how nearby is nearby? And then they're like, 10, probably, 8 to 10 power poles would get it to you. I'm like, I don't know. It's a dead tree. How expensive could that be? Yeah.
I don't know how y'all utilities are. We have one utility that runs the entire Houston area, CenterPoint. If you go and look on Google and look at CenterPoint's reviews, they got like negative 1.2 stars or something like that. I didn't even know you could get negatives on Google, but I don't think they give negatives, but they should because that's what CenterPoint deserves. We know for a jump, from the jump. So when we start construction, we get CenterPoint out there immediately. We do everything with the infrastructure and the utilities ahead of time because we learned if you wait till the end, your project will be delayed. And we had that happen to us. So now, as soon as we break ground, hey, utility company, come out here while I put my power. If you need to drop a pole, you talking about like 6 months. I'm like, 6 to drop one pole. I'm like 6 months. So now you talking about 7 or 8. That's probably a year and a half out.
So many things. Garland, you have shared so much that's been just really, really fascinating, a very different dimension. You mentioned you got a newsletter. How can people find you? How can people follow up with you? This sounds very fascinating. Share with folks a little bit about that.
So you guys can go to our website, middlehousingdesign.com. On there, you can on all platforms, Instagram, YouTube, it's Middle Housing Design Co. Pinterest, Middle Housing Design Co. LinkedIn is just my name, Garland Harris. If you want to follow me on LinkedIn, I do post a lot of stuff to LinkedIn too. Our YouTube channel is where you're going to find is really where you're going to get like the meat from us because we do video series over projects that we're doing. So we just finished up our Texas Tiny House series, which we actually got 2 units under contract and we got them to meet the appraised value. So yeah, I was like, yeah, okay, all right. So now our partners are going to finish out the rest of the project and move forward with that one. So we'll be back to that one when we finish it. But now we're following our fourplex project. So yeah, we drop like informational videos all the time. Really try to teach and put a lot of information out there. A lot of our stuff is geared more around missing middle and teaching people about we don't need as much parking as we think we need. Like we don't need 4 parking spaces for one house. That still just is beyond me. Like why do you need 4 parking spaces for my driveway at my personal residence can fit 5 cars along with the 2-car garage that I have. And we rarely ever have 5 cars in the driveway. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just like, you don't need it. Anyways, but yeah, Middle Housing Design Co. On all those platforms. And I don't have like a TikTok or anything like that. Sometimes, you get to too much social media, it gets too much, So Instagram, YouTube, Pinterest, and LinkedIn. That's where you're going to find us posting the most stuff. You won't find anything. I don't post a lot to Facebook because it's like, I guess the personal page or something like that. But the rest of that stuff, we post a lot of good stuff. You can find us there. follow us. Please subscribe to the YouTube and watch channels. I'm trying to get my watch hours up.
All right.
All the
Excellent.
channels.
You know what I'm saying?
Right on. Well, awesome. Thank you for being our guest. Kristi, you want to close us out here?
Yeah. So again, thanks for coming, Garland. I have enjoyed all of our conversations, continue to follow and love watching what you're doing. And to our audience, if you have enjoyed this episode, we would appreciate it greatly if you can like and subscribe. We're on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. The more that you do like and subscribe, the more we can reach a bigger audience and we can share more stories like Garland did today and just kind of help you feel more normal about, real estate isn't always wins. It's the good, the bad, and the truth about what happens. And that's what we really want to bring to you guys. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next time.